From Studio 2.5, somewhere in the experiment we call Southern California, I'm Richard Lawrence, and you're watching The Social Loner for August 18, 2010. I'm sure you're well aware the internets are all abuzz this week with news that Dr. Laura has decided to call an end to her radio show, as she says, in an attempt to regain her First Amendment rights. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I assume it has something to do with her outburst last week when she decided to use the word that begins with N and ends with igger a total of 11 times. You can imagine the furor it caused, and while I believe Dr. Laura when she says she's sorry, I will say that her attempt to prove a point and any humor that she may have tried to pull off was an abject fail. I've never been a big fan of Dr. Laura or her radio show. She pontificates, she's extremely judgmental, and most of all, she doesn't listen. In fact, that's what got her into trouble in the first place. You see, a black female listener called in the other day to ask for some advice on how to deal with her white husband, who seemingly will say nothing to his white friends when they come over and make racially insensitive comments in her presence. Instead of giving some good advice, Dr. Laura seemed more intent on telling the world how big of a fan she is of HBO's Def Comedy Jam. Despite my overall distaste for Dr. Laura, I must admit, she is entertaining. After all, how else can you explain the legions of listeners who tune into her show every day to hear her dispense what seems to be painfully obvious and simplistic advice? I'll also admit this. I don't think Dr. Laura is a racist. She just lost it. And sometimes we do have to use language that others may find offensive in order to prove a point. Unfortunately, for someone of Dr. Laura's caliber, who's a seasoned professional and who makes a living criticizing and moralizing on the poor judgment of others, she made a very regrettable mistake. I'm Richard Lawrence, the Social Loner. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/rjlawrencejr. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to us chatting again next week.